Frida's first album is mesmerizing and deeply sad. Today I want to talk about the album and also explore what our four heroes were up to before, during and right after the album, for it all paved the way for ABBA to become ABBA.
Tre kvart från nu du hemma hos dig.
Hey! So, we talked about Frida's two solo albums in English, Something's Going On and Shine, and now it's time to talk about her brilliant solo albums in Swedish. For many, these are in fact the treasures of her career. Frida and Sam and Djupa Andetag are big fan favorites, and we will certainly be talking about those at some point. But what we love so much about these two albums really goes back even further to 1971 and to Frida's very first album ever. It is simply called Frida, and true to that name, it really captures everything that she is about. Before we dive into the album, let's see what our four future members of ABBA were up to during this specific period in time. Björn and Benny met 5 years before, in 1966, and 3 years later, Björn met Agneta and Benny met Frida, all in the same year, 1969. The next year, Agneta and Frida were singing together for the first time on record, and it was of course for a Björn and Benny song, Hey Gamle Man. They released their first and only album as a duo, which we already mentioned recently, in November 1970, and that same month, together with Agneta and Frida, they started their first shows together for the next few months. Of course, all four of them were already in the music business for years, Björn and Benny with their specific bands, the Hootenanny Singers and the Hepstars, and Agneta already released her third album in October 1970, which was produced by Björn. So what about Frida? During this entire period, between 1967 and 1971, she had released 8 singles, which make 16 songs, A and B sides. And the last 2 of these singles were produced by none other than her fiancé Benny. And naturally, he was also the one producing her first album. Frida, quite similar to Frida and Sam 4 years later, which was also produced by Benny, mainly contains her interpretations of traditional songs ranging from pop, jazz, musical, and even classical. And when I say her interpretations, I certainly mean it. She really makes the songs her own. If you are not familiar with the album, or if you are generally reluctant about any of the Swedish material, trust me, it doesn't matter, even if you don't understand Swedish at all. Her voice tells the stories, it gives you all the emotions, and together with the music and production, it will capture you. So let's talk about the album, track by track. The first song already gives an idea of what's to come with the album. Tre kvart från nu is very calm and reflective, her voice is soothing and puts you at ease. But the song also has some eerie vibes, and in all these regards, there is quite a symmetry between this opening and the closing song of the album, Barnen Sover, which we will talk about later. The second song remains calm, at least in the beginning. The backing track, like on the rest of the album, is very minimalistic. Frida's vocals are nuanced, which isn't too easy with sparse instrumentation like these, where sometimes almost nothing accompanies the voice, but she nails it. But during the first verse, the backing track already suggests some build-up that comes to a full burst with the chorus for some great jazz vibes on this second track. The second to last track on the album returns to jazz even more, so again there is an interesting symmetry. The third song is Lycka, which is Frida's interpretation of Björn and Benny's composition, and it's one of the best examples of how she makes these original songs her very own. She sings her heart out on this track. With her tender vocals, it really is to melt away. The orchestration perfectly complements the beauty of her voice. These arrangements are a very important part of the entire album, like the strings on the first song or the horn section on the previous track. They were done by Claes Rosendahl and Bengt Palmers, and Palmers also produced and arranged Harpo's Movie Star in 1975, for which, incidentally, Frida provided backing vocals.
Movie star, oh, movie star, oh, oh.
The fourth song is one of the few more up-tempo tracks, but it's still quite reserved. It's a very short track, and to me it has some Frida and Sam vibes. Her voice is extremely deep and confident, again, not only showing her range, but the many fascinating facets in how she uses her voice. Here for the dramatic vibes of the song.
Ska du svara ja och ge vad han vill ha och glöm sen bort att du har sett den.
And In Ton av tystnad is the Swedish version of Simon and Garfunkel's The Sound of Silence. We have a piano arrangement that evolves into a big band and back to piano, one of many proofs for Benny's excellent work which perfectly complements Frida's approach. And once again, like on Frida and Some, whenever she is covering popular songs, Frida makes it her own. She sings with so much grief, as if there is no hope left in the world. Her vocals are very prominently mixed into the center, really like on the entire album. Her voice is very present. Side A closes with one of my absolutely personal highlights. It's the Leonard Cohen song Suzanne. The backing track is constantly moving forward. Her vocals are mesmerizing, telling the story of Suzanne. It's melancholic and it leaves you in this beautifully moody atmosphere, like the opening track already did, and really all of the songs following. Side B opens with a medley of 2 songs from the musical Jesus Christ Superstar. The first song is more up-tempo, and even though it has its roots in musical, it drifts away midway through into some great jazz territory with brasses. The second track is a heartbreaking ballad. Both of these songs were also recorded by Agneta, who was playing one of the lead roles in the Swedish production of Jesus Christ Superstar. This is one of the very rare occasions that we have one and the same song from Agneta and Frida. As far as I know, this only happened one more time, with one of Frida's 2 Christmas songs from 1972, which was also recorded by Agneta for her Christmas album in 1981. So I think it's really nice to have these alternate versions of songs from both Agneta and Frida. The next track is another one of the more up-tempo songs on the album, but still Frida's vocals and Benny's piano are somewhat mysterious and melancholic. We also have some backing vocals, which I'm pretty sure is Frida herself. En liten sång om kärlek is another big highlight for me. This one captures the essence of the album and of Frida's ability to express emotions through her voice. Again, it's very calm and soothing, has an atmospheric backing track, and it was released as the lead single from the album, with the opening song as B-side. This was also the only single from the album, which is quite puzzling to me. Telegram för fullmånen is another short song with less than 2 minutes. It certainly has some wonderful jazz vibes, and again Frida shines with all her admiration for this style and puts the years of experience into this little penultimate track. Listening to it, I can picture her in a dance cafe singing this song. Finally, Barn and Silver closes this album, and what a closing song it is. This to me is not only one of the biggest highlights on Frida, but one of my favorites from her entire career. It is super melancholic, but also quite eerie. Benny's piano, strings and flutes, and the rhythm of the entire backing track is mesmerizing, and of course, Frida's vocals are sublime. I love how she sings the words "Klockan tre" in the final verse. The song reminds me a little bit of the Sherman Brothers song My Own Home, which was the closing track for Walt Disney's Jungle Book, when the girl seduces Mowgli into the man village. Just the overall atmosphere, a mysterious and haunting vibe with its rhythm and backing track.
I must go to fetch the water till the day that I am grown. Letar i vår kyl, gör en snabb supé, och då står ett barn i dörren och vill ha saft klockan 3. Barnen sover.
But having Barn and Silver as the closing track on Frida also gives parallels to the ending of Frida and Some, which leaves us similarly with a melancholic, reflective song.
Och du var min clown.
And the same goes for her album Shine, with its moody closing track Comfort Me. This is really effective. There is also a live version of Barn and Silver from 1970, which, together with the album and all of Frida's singles from this period, was released on the CD Frida 1967 to 1972. I'm mentioning the live version not only because it is one of the very rare occasions that we have a solo live recording from one of the ladies, especially from this period, but also because it was recorded as part of a radio show with all 4 future members of ABBA. They were promoting their first shows together, and they also performed Agneta's Som Echo and Björn and Benny's Hey Gamle Man. But unfortunately, these 2 recordings were never released since the original radio broadcast. At least we have the live version of Frida's Barn and Silver, and we have Benny on piano and Björn on guitar, which makes this the oldest surviving live recording we have of 3 future members of ABBA together. And while I also mentioned the live version, Frida's vocals are as strong as on the album version on this terrific song. During the album sessions, Frida recorded 2 more songs that were left unreleased. Gå min väg was an interpretation of Dionne Warwick's song Walk On By, and a second song was a Swedish language version of the Beatles' The Long and Winding Road. This song was actually leaked many years ago on YouTube by ABBA Talk, and listening to it confirms what she also proves with her version of The Sound of Silence or other cover versions, also on Frida and Some. She takes these very familiar originals and truly makes them her own. The album was released in March 1971 in a beautiful gatefold. It didn't chart, but was met with positive reviews. The Swedish newspaper Dagens Nyheter wrote, "Professional, sure and certain LP debut, low-key but self-sure personality, with sprinkles of both temperament, humor and tenderness." And she sings in a very intelligent way. The album was reissued 1 year later with an additional song, but it was never released as a standalone album on CD. As I said, in 1997 it did premiere on CD, but only as part of the 2-disc anthology, which also collects Frida's singles from before and after the album. This might be one of the reasons why it sometimes seemed to be overlooked amongst Frida's other solo albums, and what might be even more confusing is an album called Anni-Frid Lyngstad that was also released in 1972, but which is nothing more than a compilation gathering 12 of her singles. But finally, in 2017, Frida, the album, was exclusively released as a limited edition vinyl and also became available digitally in its very own right, the way it should be. With this vinyl reissue, the album actually entered the Swedish charts on number 28 to finally get some more recognition. As I said in the beginning, Frida's debut album captures everything that Frida is about. It shows her vocal range and her ability to put all her emotions into song. But it also is proof for this terrific collaboration between Frida and Benny that continues with her next album, Frida and Some. She makes the songs her own, but he is as responsible with his unique production and arrangements throughout. For me, it is one of her most genuine and complete albums. It's very intimate, calm and soothing, with only a few more up-tempo numbers, and even those are reluctant and somewhat melancholic. And there might be a reason for all this deep sadness, for her voice full of sorrow. In all her years as a singer, and especially during those 4 years leading to this album, she was trying to find her style. She did not have her big breakthrough yet, and at this period in time was less and less confident about continuing a career as a singer. It certainly didn't help that the album was nowhere to be seen in the charts. Considering it is her very first album ever, the quality is remarkably strong for a debut album, and in the end, that is all due to her years of trying and never giving up. But it did take her to a point where it almost could have been her last album. So what happened after the album came out? Well, in the spring of 1971, Agneta, Björn and Benny went on tour, while Frida decided to start studying. She said, "It's not that I plan to abandon my career as an artist, at least not yet, but I think it's best that I prepare myself if I should have to quit. Sometimes I get the feeling that what I do is pointless. I try to find a meaning with life. Sometimes I succeed in doing that, but not always. When I felt like nothing was especially meaningful, I decided to start studying." Well, I think it's safe to say that nothing was pointless and everything was meaningful, for we are still talking about those recordings more than 50 years later. And the story just started to get really exciting. After the album, Frida did release 4 more singles. The first one features 2 amazing songs with Lasse Berghagen, again full of melancholia, nostalgic undertones and springtime feeling. The second single, Min egen stad, went to number 1, and it was this song that was added onto the reissue of Frida the album. It was Frida's Swedish version of a song by Benny for his band the Hepstars, and finally became her breakthrough on the Swedish charts. Moreover, on this and the following 2 singles, all 4 future members of ABBA can be heard together again, and what a sound it is. If you listen to their solo recordings from this period chronologically, you can feel how they just kept coming back together again and again, and how they must have felt there is something special here. They were already together again for Agneta's 4th solo album at the end of 1971, the highlight probably being the closing song Drömme Dröm och Saga Saga. With each new solo project from this time, you can really hear how they are getting closer and closer to the ABBA sound. And if you want to experience the sound of ABBA right before they became ABBA, take a listen to Frida's songs Vi alla bara barn I början and especially Kom ihåg en sång. This is where you can really feel the magic coming together. And it wasn't too long afterwards when in March 1972 our four friends would return to the recording studio to record what would officially become their first song together, People Need Love. And we will be talking about that song next week to celebrate 50 years of when the story of ABBA began. And now I want to know from you, are you familiar with Frida's first solo album from 1971? What do you think of it? And do you even have special memories with this album? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, until then, hey do!